Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. My name is Pam, and I'm an intuitive healer and a spiritual life coach. And today's video is kind of depending on your belief system, will depend on your impression of the video, because it's either, but if you listen until the end, I think it will clarify a lot. And because some people are going to resonate with this and others are going to say it's blasphemy. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey and where I am now as far as my belief system, because it's been a journey. And there are people that question, they say that I'm doing the devil's work, or, they just don't believe what I do and they tell me I'm wrong. Well, to start off, trying to figure this is kind of complicated. My journey started when I was dating my to-be second husband. We split. I joined a church. I drove an hour to go to this church. I walked in the door and felt like I was home. So I joined the church. I got saved. I didn't know, I grew up in a church. I grew up as dad didn't. Mom took me to church as a kid, and I was Baptist. And so I was familiar with church a little bit, but I joined this church, which was another Baptist church, because that's what I knew. And I got saved. I got very involved in the church, still driving an hour each way to go to church. So I would, in fact, I got so involved, my dad pulled me aside one day and he's like, "Pam, I'm really worried about you." And I'm like, "Why?" And he said, "Because you're spending so much time in the church." He said, "You have to be very careful because they will swallow you up and use you and abuse you." And he said, "That's what happened to me." He joined a church when he was younger. And because my dad was one of these guys that could do anything, they sucked him in. They used his abilities. They used his talents to do whatever. I don't even know everything, but he got burned out. And that's what he was reflecting back to me. He's like, "Just be very careful." And I'm like, if I'm doing God's work, how can that be damaging? It doesn't matter how much I'm doing. And I would go, like with these people, to knock on doors. "Do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in God? Are you saved?" Because I was trying to save souls, because that's what they were teaching. And my heart was on fire. And if you had told me then where I was going to end up, I would have told you were crazy. If you had told me then what I know now, I would have told you were crazy. And it's a lie, and it's false, and all of these things. And what are you trying to fill my head with? I read the Bible, the entire Bible, front to back, Old Testament, New Testament. I read the whole thing. I never got it. I understood it, but I was never one of these people that could just, they say, "Oh, well, if you're having a problem, just open the book to a chapter and you'll get your answer." Well, that never worked for me. I would open a chapter and I'd read it and be like, I'd feel worse and more lost than before I even opened the book. So I learned at a point to go directly to the source. I would pray, I would meditate, I would ask God for the answers, and I would get them, and they would be very clear. And I always had a problem, because at that point I was a Christian, and none of this video, none of it is out of judgment. It's all out of love. So if you don't resonate with it, if you don't understand it, if you don't believe in it, if you don't agree with it, that's okay. That's your opinion, and that's okay. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. But hear me out. Because when I was in church, and even though I was hearing all these things and I was so dead set on doing God's work, I always had this deep feeling that there was something more than what I was being told and that I was being taught. And if God was love, because they teach God is love, and I've never been one of these to just follow. In fact, I had a conversation with my mom, I guess a week or so ago, and I said something about this, and she's like, "Oh my God, do I know that's true?" So I've just never been one. I mean, she and I would go head to head because she knew that I was going to question why, or just not do as I'm told. And not in a bad way. Well, sometimes, but sorry. So anyway, I've never been a sheep. And sorry, my cat, I don't know why my cat is making that noise. But I've never been just a sheep to lead, to follow blindlessly. So I never got the Bible. I mean, I understood we're supposed to treat people with love. We're supposed to be respectful. We're supposed to do all those things. But it taught judgment and it taught division. And I fell into it for a very long time. But it never made sense to me. And I always questioned, if God is love and he created everybody equally, because it says we're all equal in the eyes of God. If he created everybody equally, why do some people get to go to heaven and some people get to go to hell? And if you're in the Christian belief, if you're not a Christian, you're going to hell. It just doesn't matter. If you don't believe that Jesus is the Lord and Savior and God's Son, and he died for your sins, you're going to go to hell. And that never sat with me, because I'm thinking, some of the most godly people I knew were atheists. My ex-husband's uncle, was he was an atheist because of life things that happened to him. His wife had died and he never got over it. So he blamed God. Well, he was one of the most godly people. He was the kindest. He was extremely wealthy, but he drove a minivan. He never flaunted his wealth. He did amazing things to give back to the world. And when he died, I mean, it broke my heart because I loved him to death. But it's like, how can he go to hell? And the Bible teaches, it's not by works, it's by faith. So a loving God gives you this needle hole to go through to get to him. That didn't make sense to me. It did not set well with me at all. Because the only way, in the Christian belief, the only way to get to heaven is through Jesus. And I was like, and I followed that for a while. I really did. But like I said, it never sat with me. So I started asking. And I've always had a connection to animals. Always, since I was little. And so that was the initial phase. Oh, and I mean, to tell you how deep into the church I got, because like I said, my second husband and I were dating, we broke up. And I told God, I said, if it's meant to be, he will come back and these things will be met. And they were. But because I had been saved and told that if you're saved, you don't sleep together until you get married. Now, we had been together prior to this probably like 6 years. I told him, I was like, we're not sleeping together until we get married. And it was probably another year before we got married. And I told him, I was like, it's just not going to happen. So I get it. I was there. And I'm not, if, you know, and I can probably say there are very few people, Christians. In fact, I had this conversation with somebody a while back. I said, you want to throw it at everybody's face that if they're not a Christian and they can't sleep together. I would be willing to bet my last cent that most of you that are saying this slept together before you got married. It's easy to throw a stone when you're not in that picture. It's easy to cast judgment when you're not in that picture anymore. And if you get divorced, I dare say you're not going to sleep with your next partner before you get married again. Anyway, side note. So, but that's how deep I was in the church. And I was deep into judgment. And if you did that, you were wrong. And if you did these things, you were wrong. So I get married, life happens. My husband never really conformed. Many, many years later, God will use your passion, your heart to get to you, because he will keep trying until he gets to you. So many years later, now I'm married to my third husband. I tore everything up in my knee. I fell down steps. I tore my ACL, my MCL, and both meniscus. I was on the couch on crutches for 3 months. Couldn't move. One of my cats goes missing. And a friend of mine, and I posted something on Facebook, a friend of mine that I went to high school with reached out and said, I can help you, call me, or I can probably help you, call me. So anyway, I call her. She tells me that something happened to the cat in the middle of the night. It's not coming back. It's crossed over. And I'm like, how do you know this? And she said, because I can communicate with animals. You could have blown me over with a feather. Because I was like, oh my God, if I can talk to animals, I would be in heaven. That started my journey. My journey, because I wanted so badly to talk to animals, I was doing everything, because it wasn't just working. My whole life, I've just been able to make things happen. They just happen. This didn't just happen. And I was trying so hard to make it happen. I was going to, because I thought something was blocking me, because I was reading books. I hated to read, hated to ask my mom. I wouldn't read if you held a gun to my head. But I picked up books and I started reading and I started studying and I started digging into this, because it was how God was grabbing me. And in that process, I was clearing blockages in me. I was clearing limiting beliefs in me. I was healing me to try it for the purpose to communicate with animals. I didn't realize it was pulling me closer to God all along. And so that, I did Reiki. I have Reiki done. I had energy work done. I prayed, I cried. I had a spiritual coach. I had a life coach. I went to channelers. I went to mediums. I'm telling you, I did it all because I wanted this so badly. And when I set my mind to something, nothing stands in my way. Nothing. So I was knocking down all the walls I possibly could. And in that process, my dad passed. I told my dad the day before, or the weekend before he died. I went to Florida. I saw him. I didn't realize he was going to die the next weekend, but I told him, I said, because of all the work I had done, I knew there was more to it. And I told him, I said, Dad, don't, I mean, he was crushed because he was very sick. He had cancer. He was very sick. And he cried because he knew it would probably be the last time he saw me. And I told him, I said, don't worry, because I will talk to you again. Death is not the end. I didn't realize how strong or what I was saying at the point, other than I knew, because I had seen other people talk to people on the other side. And it's not a bad thing. It's not. So I knew I would be able to communicate with my dad, the person I loved more than anything. My dad and I were super, super close. And he kind of laughed. And I mean, he's always known I've been different. And he laughed and he said, okay, well, we'll see. The day he died, I was on my way to a Reiki treatment. My sisters called me because I left Florida and they came in like 2 days later because they knew he was sick. So my sisters were both in Florida. They called me. They said, Pam, he's not doing well. He's in the hospital. He fell. They've got him on, I don't even remember what, but they pretty much, he was unconscious. And the nurse at that point said, she called me, being the oldest, she called me and she said, I want you to know that if your dad starts to go, we'll do everything we can to keep him alive. And I said, no, you won't. No, you won't. You're going to let him go in peace. He's ready to go. He wants to go. You're not going to make him suffer anymore. You're going to let him go. And my sisters were on board with me, thank God. And I told my sisters, I said, let him know that I love him and it's okay for him to go. And you guys are there. Let him know it's okay. While I was on the Reiki table, the woman doing Reiki on me told me, she said, which angel was it? Ariel. She said, Ariel showed up while I was doing the reading on you. And I was like, that's odd. She's like, she's the angel that helps people cross over. And I was like, wow, okay. It still didn't, because I'm thinking he's like getting ready to cross, right? Because I know he's at that point. I get back in my car after the treatment, get in my car, call my sister, and they said, Pam, he died. He died while I was on that table. And Ariel came to take him. And she came to, and sorry, this is tough. She came to that Reiki person. So I knew that he had crossed peacefully. So I left there and I went home. And at this point, I knew my third husband and I were having issues. I wasn't in love with him anymore. And I was told, do everything out of love. Do everything out of love. But I didn't know how to leave him from a loving place. And I didn't want, because he's one of these people that everybody loves. You know, you just loved him. And my parents both thought the world of him. And I never wanted my dad to be disappointed in me. I never wanted my dad to be disappointed in me, ever. And that was part of my issue, I will say. But I didn't want to leave my third husband while my dad was alive, because I knew it would upset him. And he had enough stuff going on. So the day after he died, or the night he passed away, I told my husband, I said, I need to go to the mountains. I just need to drive tomorrow. And so I drove to, I live in Virginia, so I drove to Stanton, which is, I love the area. And as I'm going up the road, I said, Dad, I just wish I could talk to you one more time. And it was like a wave hit my car. I just felt this huge burst of energy hit my car. And I just knew he was sitting in the seat beside me. And I told him, I said, Dad, I don't love him anymore. But I don't know how. I don't want to disappoint you. And I couldn't tell you this when you were here. So he told me, he's like, Pam, it's okay. I get it now. He said, I see. You need to be happy. And what you're getting ready to do can't happen until you leave. And I was like, okay. I mean, I could barely drive. I was crying so hard. So don't tell me talking to people on the other side is evil. Don't tell me that communicating with the dead is bad. So fast forward, I leave my husband, like within 30 days, I've moved out, I've bought a house, and that's a whole nother story because it was meant to happen. And I left him out of love. I told him, I said, you are an amazing person. You deserve to be loved more than I can love you anymore. I'm not at that place anymore. So in fairness to both of us, I need to leave. So I left thinking, okay, I've done all this work. I'm going to go move to this new house, this new life, this new everything. And it's going to be, the roof is going to open up. God's going to come in. God's going to bless everything I do. It's going to be amazing. That didn't happen. I couldn't find anybody to talk to hang out with. I became very lonely. It was the first time in my life I didn't have a boyfriend or a husband or anybody to talk to. So, or any man in my life. And I remember it was hard. It was very hard. And at that point, because of things that my daughter was going through, and just the way that she and I were, she was so angry with me, and she was blaming me for everything in her life. She hated me. She wouldn't even speak to me. She didn't even help me move out. She never came to my house. I lived there 11 months. I never spoke to my daughter. I spoke to my daughter, but she would never respond to me. The one time because I went back to my ex-husband's house to get some things, and I saw her, and I said, why won't you come see me? And she told me then, she said, because the only reason you want to see me is because you have no one else. She said, this is what you've done to me my whole life. It hurt. But she was right. She still didn't come see me, but it was part of me that I had to work on. It was part of me I had to clear. And I remember being in such a dark spot. I remember sitting in my chair, and my life coach at the time, I sent her a message and I said, I'm done. I have no reason to live. Tonight is it. I won't be here tomorrow. I said, because people hate me because of who I am. I said, I hate me. People will probably come, if people came to my funeral, they'll probably cheer and be glad I'm gone. That's how I felt about myself at that point. And I said, God doesn't even exist. He hates me because he's put me in this hellhole and he's making me suffer. So in that moment, I sent her that email, and I sent an email to her. And that night I sat there and contemplated how I was going to end my life. And why not? People are going to be happy if I'm gone. I'll be happy if I'm gone. And in the darkest point, no, my horse is another story. Because in the Reiki treatment, back when I was doing Reiki, the lady asked me, she said, "Do you have a horse?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Because a horse showed up for you in your first treatment." And she's explaining this horse. Anyway, long story short, I ended up getting my horse, my miniature horse. When I got the horse, I took the picture I showed the Reiki lady the picture of my horse, and she cried. She said, "Pam, that's your horse." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "That is the face that showed up for you in your treatment." So anyway, this horse came into my life, and she was I kept my horse in the divorce from my third husband. He kept the dogs and cats. So I loved my horse. She became like, because I remember telling her, "I don't know where I'm going, but we're leaving. Even if I have to stay in a barn with you, I have to leave my husband." And she's baby at this point. She's less than a year old. And she like leaned into me and hugged me as if to say, "Mom, it's okay. We'll be fine." So when I left and I'm in this dark spot and I'm thinking nobody would care if I left, an image of my horse showed up right here. And God said, "Who will take care of her when you're gone?" And that shifted me. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't do this to her. If she is the only reason I live, I have to stay here for her." So I shifted that night, and I thought, you know what? Oh, sorry. I don't even know what I'm doing with the lights. I'm so messed up. That night I shifted, and I thought, you know what? I need to work on me. I need to get my shit together. Because I was working with a spiritual coach at that time. And I remember her telling me, we were working on clearing my chakras, just aligning me. Because again, I still want to communicate with animals. I still want to heal animals. And I remember the channeler I went to. They told me, they're like, you'll work with animals a little bit, but you're here to help people. You're here to heal people on a huge level. And at that point, I told them, I was like, I don't even like people. I don't want to help people. I want to help animals. So at this point, I still want to help animals. So I'm still trying to open everything up. I mean, this is like years later. It still hasn't happened. I mean, I can communicate some, but not like I thought I would be able to. So anyway, I come out of that session, and my my life coach, or my spiritual coach at that point, I remember her telling me, she's like, one of the hardest things I had to come to grips with was realizing that I'm not a Christian. And at this point, I'm still a Christian. And I'm like, what? And I didn't understand what she was talking about. So I really had to sit with that. And she's like, "Pam, I want you to go home and meditate on who God is, what God is." And I said, "Okay." So hang on. Okay, sorry. I did not realize this was going to get like this, but anyway, it is what it is. She's like, "I want you to meditate on who God is and what God is." Because at this point, remember, I'm Christian. God is out there somewhere. God's, like some 3D man in the clouds, which never, again, never set with me, because I'm like, and God created man in his image, right? How does a man do everything that God can do? How does a man hear everybody that prays at once? How does he create all these miracles if it's a man in the clouds? So it never set with me. So I go in, I meditate, and I'm like, okay, God, show me, tell me who you are, what you are. And all of a sudden, I got this image of being enveloped in this the biggest blanket, the fluffiest. It was like I was just consumed by this blanket that covered everything. Everything. It was everywhere. And it just consumed me in such a blanket of love. And I went back and I told her, I said, this is what I got. And she's like, you're finally getting it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So again, fast forward, I move here. Meanwhile, you talk about, Christians want to tell you that Satan is there and all this kind of stuff. And God will again use whatever to get your attention. So I move here, still don't have a guy, still don't have my guy, a man in my life. Every man that shows up, because yes, I went down the path in my life of adultery, but remember, Jesus died for your sins. All you have to do is ask for forgiveness and you'll be forgiven. Now, when I was first saved, there was a shift in me. And I didn't want to sin. I didn't want to, like I said, I told my husband, my boyfriend at the time, we will not sleep together. And I meant it, and I stuck to that. So there was a shift in me, but then life happened and I came back to being me. So I went down, yes, I sinned. I went against God. I was like, you know what? What I want isn't happening. So I'm just going to, following your rules isn't happening. I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to do my thing. Whatever it is. I'll ask for forgiveness and I'll be fine. So I did that for a while. Nothing got better. So I'm still working on me. And I start doing hypnotherapy. And I start really diving deep into what is, I don't want to say what was wrong with me, but doing the shadow work, clearing the crap, the ugly parts of me, healing my inner child that I had neglected for years, forgiving people that I didn't think I could ever forgive, and opening up to who and what God is, and learning more and expanding my vision. And when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. And since I have learned so much more than that Bible will teach. And it hit me because somebody on Facebook the other day, a Christian, and I'm not knocking Christian because I was there, said that, what I'm portraying is the devil's work. And I'm like, no, it's not. They're like, I've been where you are. Now I'm a Christian. I'm like, you've never been. And I'm thinking, you've never been here. Not even close. Because I've been where you are. I literally lived in your shoes as that devout Christian person. So anyway, I'm still working on me. I'm still getting close to me. And in my last, oh, and I still want to kind of heal myself. I want to heal people. I want to heal animals. And in my last session, my last hypnotherapy session, the lady told me, she's like, because I had had a situation at work where I helped a girl that worked for me clear negative energies. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, no clue, but I knew somebody had to help her. And again, being who I am, I just charged right into it. And Archangel Michael showed up because she could see angels, but she knew she had a negative attachment. Or she didn't know what was wrong, but she knew something bad was happening to her. So I knew I needed to fix it. Nobody else was going to fix it, and people would tell her she's crazy. So I helped her clear this energy with Michael's help, obviously, which is another story, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. So I'm telling my hypnotherapist this story, and she said, Pam, you have a very strong calling. And we need people like you, because I can't hypnotize somebody, really, if they have a negative attachment, because the attachment won't let them get to the place they need to go, to your subconscious. So she tells me about this person that she knows in California that does theta healing. So I take a theta healing. I took 3 classes, got certified in all 3, because remember, when I do something, I dive in. I go head first, right in. And in doing the classes, I find out that she's one of the few theta healing practitioners that deals with negative energies and releasing negative energies. And I was like, what are the chances of me being put in your class and being hooked up with you? So meanwhile, I know that synchronicities happen. I know everything happens for a reason, because I've grown to that point. And while I'm doing that class, one of my guards that worked for me at the time, because he and I had had a conversation. I stayed at his place of work for 4 hours one day, talking to him, listening to him, helping him. And he told me, he said, Pam, in these few hours that I've talked to you, I have learned more, and I feel so much. I've learned more about me. I've learned more about everything, and I feel so much better, and things make more sense than everything in my entire life. And I've gone to therapists, I've gone to priests, I've gone to like psychologists, psychiatrists, all you name it. He had gone to it looking for answers. And he said, none of them have helped me the way you just helped me. And he was telling me about a situation at his mom's house and all this kind of stuff. Well, I told him, I was like, if you ever need me, I'm always here for you. When we're doing the session, the theta healing session on how to clear energies, my phone goes off. I got a text message. And this is like a few months before that. It was him. He said, Pam, you said if I ever needed you, you would be there. I need you. His mom had some stuff going on in the house that she couldn't explain. And so when I say everything happens for a reason, I live it. So when I finished my theta healing session, got my certification, all that kind of stuff, I went and had a session with both of them. And I cleared his mom's house, and I helped her. It was one of the most beautiful sessions I've ever had. It was the first one, and it will stay with me forever. Because watching the shift in that woman, when I released that energy from her house, it was amazing. Amazing. So then I start diving deeper into all this stuff, because now I've got theta healing under my belt. I understand hypnotherapy. I understand communicating with the other side. The light beings. I don't communicate with the dark stuff. I started watching some tarot readings, and some of that resonated with me. Some of them didn't, so I let that go. One of my cats, that's Mary. So, but I was getting answers. So I have my own decks. I don't use them a lot, but sometimes I do. It's how I get some of my answers. So and I forgot where I was. Anyway, in that session, my last session, we're going in because I'm still trying to find my purpose. I'm still trying to find what I'm supposed to do in life, how I'm supposed to help all these people. And in that session, we go into like a classroom, and she says, ask to meet your guide. And I said, okay. So I met my guide, and I'm thinking it's like my grandmother, my dad, Archangel Michael, because I know Michael is my guardian angel. I'm thinking it's one of them, right? Jesus shows up. I was like, I was like speechless. I was like, oh my gosh, it completely blew me away. Jesus shows up, and we're talking. He's I don't even remember what he was saying, but she said, Pam, he has a gift for you. And he hands me this box. And I open the box, and it's like a pink heart, and it is the most powerful feeling of love that I've ever felt in my life. It just consumed me. It was unconditional love. It's the piece I was missing. It was his gift to me, because Jesus is nothing but unconditional love. So, because that's all God is unconditional love. When I came out of that session, I was in tears. I told her, I said, I can't get to people fast enough. I feel basically the pain, I feel what Jesus felt when he was here, because he wanted to help people. And I can't get to them fast enough. I can't heal them fast enough. But that became my passion. And since then, my complete purpose still hasn't shown up. Things are shifting in my life at the moment. I just got married. Today, happy Valentine's Day, by the way. Today is the 1-year anniversary of my husband and I, where he asked me to marry him. And that is another story where God just opened doors and was like, here you go. It's everything you asked for and more. We've had moments, but he's been such a blessing. And it's the path that I need to take. And both of us knew we would never get married. I had been married 3 times. If I can't get it right in 3 times, why in the hell am I going to do it a 4th time? And he'd been married twice. He wasn't going to get married again. Within 6 weeks, we met each other January 21st, and March 6th, we got married. It just happens. When God works, God works. So March 6th will be our 1-year anniversary. We're also looking to move. We're manifesting our house. So there's a lot going on in my life at the moment, but I'm still working on me. I'm still healing me. In this process, I have seen my husband go from here to here in a year. It has been the most beautiful transformation. That's another whole story. But helping him grow has been the best blessing, the best gift, because it comes from a place of love. It doesn't come from a place of, well, you're fucked up, I need to fix you, which is where I was before. No, it's he's asked for help. I'm here to help you. So in that process, the two of us are we're on different paths, but going in the same direction. We learn from each other. Things still come to me, and he is into the Bible and the books of the Bible and where they came from and why it is the way it is. And there are things about it that he doesn't understand. So he's researching himself. I'm not telling him this stuff. He's getting his own information and he's listening to God himself. And it's like the Christian belief is, if it's not in that book, it doesn't exist or it's wrong. And it hit me yesterday because God spoke to me and he said, Pam, think about it. The Bible, yes, while the people that walked with Jesus wrote books, that's not what you're reading. He said the Bible was put out and controlled by the Roman Catholic Church, by the Roman Catholics, by Rome, the very people that crucified Jesus. I was like, oh yeah. Why am I going to pay attention to a book that hated and feared Jesus so much they killed him? But they put out a book because they were afraid of losing their power. That's what the book teaches. It teaches division. It teaches fear. It teaches you have no control. They want to control you. If you really, really look at it and you really, really open your mind, you will see what I'm saying. They teach you that Jesus is out there somewhere. Your sins, Jesus came here to die for your sins. No, he did die, yes. Jesus came here to teach you how to live. Jesus came here because the world was so corrupt at that point. It still is. He came here to teach you that you are bigger than this physical vessel that you came back in. That's why he came back after he was killed, dead. He resurrected. The resurrection, for me, has been explained to me by God, not by any other outside source. This came to me, that the resurrection is a symbol. Because again, the Bible isn't specific. It tells stories. It's parables. It's things you can relate to. So the physical nailing you to a tree and dying and all that kind of stuff, what that is the old you dying. Because you are God. We're all one. Remember that blanket? God is energy. God created man in his own image. You are energy. People talk about science is proving all this kind of stuff. Science has proven it. There is an energy that ties everything together. There is everything is energy. Everything. So if God is everywhere, you're God. You are the creator of your own existence. And when I realized that, I was like, no wonder I've been miserable. That's what I created. I mean, I have chosen now to create the life of my dreams. And that's where I am. I am living in heaven on earth. Heaven is what you make it. Hell is what you make it. If you're living in fear and anger and judgment, you live in hell. Because your life isn't full, it isn't complete. And dying, the old you dying, when you resurrect the Christ in you, the Christ consciousness in you, you don't want to sin. Your whole belief system changes. It goes from somebody out there saving you to you saving yourself. Yes, you knock on the door. Jesus is knocking on the door. You have to be open enough to let him in. Because when you resurrect that in here, your life will shift, I'm telling you. I know some of you get it. I'm preaching to the choir. Some of you say this is blasphemy. How dare you? How dare you for keeping that door closed? Let Christ live in you. And you won't, I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm not judging you. I'm telling you how it works for me. Try it. Because my husband and I are at a point, we don't even think about doing anything against anyone else. And that's what Jesus taught. He didn't teach judgment. He didn't teach division. He didn't say, oh, you're not doing it my way, you're wrong. You don't believe my way, you're wrong. You're going to hell. Jesus never said that. He taught love, unconditional love, because that's all God is. God's not judging you from the clouds, telling you you're wrong. Oh, you're going to go to hell. No, you are putting yourself in your own hell. And if you're in that spot, you probably don't want to hear this. I wouldn't have wanted to hear it. But when you look back at your past and you realize everything happens for a reason, I went through that dark night of the soul to wake up. Then, when my daughter finally started talking to me again, it was after I moved here. And she was telling me she's studying Wicca. And of course, the Christian part of me was like, you're doing what? Because she was raised in a church. God said, Pam, listen to her. Keep your mouth shut and listen to her. And she told me, she said, the problem that I have with church and Christianity, because at this point she's still kind of angry with me, so she's kind of lashing out at me. She said they're hypocrites. She said they sit and they preach they're holier than thou, but they go out and sin and they do things against other people, thinking that all they have to do is ask God to save them or forgive them and they're fine. And then they go back and do it again. And I was like, and it hit me like a lightning bolt. I was like, oh my God, she's right. She's right. That was my second wake-up call. That is when I shifted and my mind was like, there is more. Because everything she was saying was true. And God gave me another metaphor this morning when I was laying in bed thinking, I've got to do this video. I just have to put my story out there. Because my husband and I both understand construction. He is a contractor. I grew up with my dad, who again could do anything. He taught me how to do some construction. My husband's had 60 years of learning what he knows. He knows what he knows. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. I've had 58 years, almost 59 years of learning what I've learned, knowing what I know. I don't know what I don't know. We have learned together, because we've built things together, that my way isn't always right. Or my way might be right, but his also might be right. If we shut each other down and stayed so focused on, no, it's got to be my way, or you're wrong, we wouldn't learn. We wouldn't continue to grow. You know, if he starts to do something, I'll ask him, why are you doing it that way? I would do it this way. Sometimes my way is better, sometimes his way is better. But we learn. I learned things that I didn't know. He learns things that he didn't know. Because I've had a past that he wasn't part of. He's had a past I wasn't part of. The problem is, religion is the same way. You have only been taught what you've been taught. You don't know what you don't know. Where you go wrong is shutting that door to the possibility that there might be more. No, it's not in the book. It can't be right. God didn't say it. How do you know God didn't say it? Were you there? No. Go ask God yourself. That's what I do. That's how I get my answers. They either come to me, I either hear them, or a synchronicity will happen, or I'll pull a card and the answer will be in that card. My husband will say something that answers the question. I haven't even asked him the question, but he'll say something and it's like, got it. A song will come on. You have to be open to the different ways of doing of the same result. We all want to go to heaven, right? Make your own heaven. Don't wait to die to get there. That's craziness. God loves you. God wants you to be happy. So, you know, it's like I remember my nephew showing me the new math. I was like, this is the messed up mess that I've ever seen. I said, how in the world? You got to go around your elbow to get to your thumb. Why can't you just add 2 plus 2 and you get 4? Well, you can add 2 plus 2 and get 4, but you can add 2 plus 1 and get 4. You can add 2 plus 10 minus 8. No, not 8. 6 and get 4. I don't do math anymore without a calculator. There are more ways to get there. They're not wrong. They're just different. And unless you're told there are more ways, you don't know. I'm telling you, what we've been taught and brainwashed with is limiting. It is extremely limiting. God and Jesus aren't out there. Stop waiting for Jesus to come back. He's already back. He's already in you. He's already part of you. He's part of everybody. And don't go think, oh, I'm God, and you get your ego involved. Wrong answer. Because yes, you are God. You are nothing but love. Down deep, it's our training and our belief systems that separate us from the true God that we've been told is out there somewhere and he's judging you. That is nothing but keeping you in fear and keeping you obedient, which is the look at our government. Look at the corruption. That's all they're doing. They want to, that's what the news, that's all they teach is fear. The government, do it my way. Wear a mask. Go get shot. Oh, that one didn't work. Let's give you another one. No. God gave me an immune system. That's what I use. And you know what? I never got the dreaded disease. God protected me. I never got it. So everybody in my family's gotten it. I didn't. It doesn't make me better than anybody. It's just, and I know some people that didn't get the shot and they got COVID, but, it's just open your mind to just the possibility that there might be more. And you will be amazed at what you find. You will be amazed at how much better your life gets. So if you have questions, I welcome your questions. I might not have all the answers, but I know who does. And we'll find them together. Because I'm still learning. But don't come at me and tell me I'm wrong. Don't come at me and tell me that because I don't believe what you believe, that I'm wrong and I'm going to go to hell and I'm leading people to hell. No, that's coming from your limiting belief. That's coming from what you've been taught and you've been trained all your life. If I went with what I've been taught and trained my whole life in construction, I wouldn't have learned any more from my husband. And I know it's construction in your life, but why do you want to limit your life? God sent you here to have a life full of abundance, full of joy, full of gratitude, full of love and peace. That's where I am. So and when I met my husband, he was at a place where they call it a faith-based community. They're Christians. Nothing wrong with that. But they told me I was wrong. They'll sprinkle oil trying to keep bad energies away, but they don't want me going in there clearing energies. It's like, why? Jesus cleared energies. Why is it bad? I do what I do. That's not all I do, but that's a huge part of what I do. And I told him then, because they told me that reading my tarot cards and my oracle cards was wrong. It's witchcraft. I was like, no, it's not. I talk to God. That's not witchcraft. How I get my answers is my business. That's not the only way I get my answers. But that's judgment. That's you judging me, telling me I'm wrong because it's not what you believe. That's not very Christian-like. That's not very God-like. And I told my husband then, I said, I know where they are. I was there once. I get it. I'm past that point. I've graduated that class. I'm not going back. He didn't understand at the time. He didn't understand a lot of what I told him at the time, but he gets it now. He completely gets it now. I mean, we're still working on things. We're both still growing. But he understands why I said, I'm not going back. That's like repeating a grade that I don't need to repeat anymore. So anyway, I think that's basically, in a nutshell, huge nutshell, everything I wanted to tell you. But open your mind. I mean, my journey has been my journey. It's not the same as yours. I'm not here to tell you mine was worse or better. I can't tell you the journey that my husband's had. It's been a hell of a journey. but he has seen the transformation of where he was to where he is now. And he's so much happier. He's healthier. He's happier. And it's not from me. It's God working through me. So, I'm sorry, car's going by, my dog's barking. But it's because he was open to knowing, and he knew there was more, but he wasn't getting answers from the Bible. He wasn't getting answers from the church. He didn't like reading before either. He told me in the first few months, he said, Pam, I've read more since we've been together than I have in my entire life. But he was learning on his own. I didn't make him do it. So, like I said, don't judge people because you're not where they are. I don't care where they are. I don't care what they believe. I don't care who they believe in. You can believe in a teddy bear. You can believe in a horse. God sent my horse to me for a reason. It saved my life, literally. You can believe in whatever you want to believe in. Don't tell somebody else they're wrong because they don't believe in what you believe in. You can't tell me that people that believe in Buddha and don't even believe that Jesus has been here yet, the Messiah hasn't come yet, that they're going to go to hell. You can't tell me that. Because God loves everybody. You'll get there. It's your decision. Heaven's not waiting on you out there somewhere to die. It's here. Enjoy it. I live in heaven every day. I've said this many, many times. Heaven is what you make it. Hell is also what you make it. I've been there too. I wasn't happy. I left. God pulled me out, showed me the light, showed me the way. So anyway, I'm sorry this took an hour. It was a lot. I didn't realize how long it was going to be, but again, I'm here to help. I'm still waiting for the thing that's going to propel me beyond to get to more people, to help more people. And as far as like drugs, we're not even, my husband, when I met him, I don't even know how many drugs he was on. Now, he's completely drug-free. He takes, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not telling you to get off your medicine. But I can tell you, he's happier, he's healthier now than he was before. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. This is not judgment. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm telling you, open your mind to the fact that you don't know what you don't know. And don't tell somebody that knows something beyond you or different than you that they're wrong because you don't know it. That's what we've been taught. It's time to retrain your brain. It's a mindset shift. Because again, the Bible teaches judgment. If you're gay, you're wrong. If you're doing witchcraft, you're wrong. If you're doing this, you're wrong. You're going to hell. That's judgment. Stop living in judgment. Start living, think about what would Jesus do? Would Jesus stand there and say, you're wrong? No. Jesus loved everybody. It didn't matter who they were, what they believed. He loved them still. And he loves you still. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. I'm sending you love. I'm sending you light. I'm sending you blessings. I hope this makes sense. And like I said, just be open. Be open. If it resonates, go with it. If it doesn't resonate, because there are people out there that will tell you things that don't resonate with me. I'm not telling you to believe everything you're told. If it resonates here in your heart, that's where God is. God will let you know what's right and what's wrong. So anyway, I love you guys, and I will talk to you later.